This episode, I'm going to tell you about managing oneself. The book is written by Peter F. Drucker, one of the most famous managers and writers on management and leadership and business matters of all time. And so managing oneself is what it sounds like. It's about managing yourself. And without further ado, let's just, talk about it. You cannot build performance on weakness. You must know your strengths and build on them. How to do this? Feedback analysis. Whenever you make a key decision or take a key action, write down what you expect will happen. 9 to 12 months later, compare the actual results with your expectations. Within 2 or 3 years, you will likely know where your strengths lie. You can then focus on these strengths and try very hard to improve them. You must also discover where your intellectual ignorance is greatly harming you and fix these issues. Not understanding people is a very common one. Whatever you do, psychology is essential to learn. And I don't mean necessarily in the, pill-popping bullshit psychology. I mean the art of people skills and understanding people. It is essential to fix bad habits. Lack of doing things. It is essential to fix bad habits, but lack of doing things is just as bad as doing harmful, pointless, or suboptimal things. Unless you're doing heroin or something, of course. Comparing your expectations with the results also reveals what not to do. One should waste as little effort as possible on improving areas of low competence, assuming these areas are not essential. It takes far more effort to improve from incompetence to mediocrity than it takes to improve from first-rate to excellent. Now, that being said, I do have to say that it does take more effort to go from excellent to truly world-class than it does to go from incompetent to mediocre. That being said, it's still an important lesson that to reach mediocre, if you took that and put that in something you're already good at, it's usually a better use of your time. And, if the skill is valuable, it is worth it. Skill stack and all that, as Scott Adams would note about someone like Donald Trump and other people, is that they have not the best skills in terms of public speaking and all these other things. It's the combination of all these skills together that make them such a powerful package, And so having a lot of mediocre skills is still pretty good, although you will have some skills that are your core thing. How do I perform? This is another key question. Are you a reader or a listener? That's funny enough, that's exactly why I'm recording this. I mean, for all practical purposes, it's the exact same as my written review with a little bit of commentary by me. Used to I did more, but I didn't think it actually provided value. I think it wasted fucking time. But I know that some people just get more value from the listening, and you can play this in your car, and I suggest you do. And I do think that listening might be better for your brain in some ways. Reading's great. I mean, you have to read, and knowing how to read and reading quickly is great. But the benefit of listening to things is that if you actually get practice at listening, it helps with your listening to other people when they speak, which is a killer skill. But anyway, some people are readers, some people are listeners. And it's a good thing to know about yourself. Are you good enough as a listener that this skill should be improved? I think that listening is a crucial skill, and no matter, even if you're a shit listener, and you need to improve it regardless because it's a key skill. You also need to know, how do you learn? Now, for more information on this, I have the review of Peak, which really is just, as much detail as you'd ever want on learning. But know how you learn, or perhaps how you like to learn. And realize that this is just a tip from me. You burn out. Like reading, I can only read, the max I've been able to do was 12 hours. 8 hours is really pretty much the max. So let's say you're a medical student or something. You can read for, let's say, 6 hours, and then you have video. So you're still learning, but you're watching videos of it. So that's really where I would take it, but maybe you are more visual than even listening or these other things. I think a lot of people are. So, know how you learn, and then act on it. You should also really know if you work well with people or if you work well with yourself. Are you a very introverted person? This is a key thing to know. You shouldn't be shooting to be the life of the party, so to speak, if you are an extremely introverted person. You still should develop your people skills as much as possible, but I don't recommend going into a career such as sales, even though learning sales could benefit you in almost anything that you do. It's just, it's not playing to your strengths. It's setting yourself up for failure. And although it's certainly possible that you can learn and succeed, it's making things harder for you than they need to be. So unless doing something that's completely unnatural for you falls in line with your grand life vision, or you are stuck in that situation for the time being, you shouldn't intentionally do something like that. Are your skills working with a team worth improving? I think that in almost any case, yes. That's another one of those absolutely vital skills. People skills and simple manners are the lubricating oil of an organization, and bright and young people often miss this. That is also to say that egotistical people miss this. Ego is a fascinating thing. It's a complex thing. You have to have enough of it. Otherwise, people don't tend to take you seriously. But if you have way too much, then, well, of course, you start believing your own bullshit, so to speak, and you start making horrible decisions. But anyway, back to the review. Do you work best as a commander or as a subordinate? Do you produce best results as a decision maker or an advisor? Do you perform well under stress or need a predictable, structured environment? Do you work best in a large organization or a small one? To manage yourself, you must ask, what are my values? You cannot work in an organization that does not have enough of your values. Non-moral values are important too, like long-term versus short-term gain, growth versus stability, etc. Of course, it's not usually either or, but an organization will often slant towards one. Sometimes your strengths do not fit your values, and you will have to make a tough call. But sticking to your values feels much better in the end. Where do I belong? Know where you do not belong is almost as good. Use your strengths and weaknesses to figure out the best place for you to be. What should I contribute? Figure out, using your strengths and your performance style, what you should do in a situation to have the most impact. A plan can usually only be 18 months long or so and still be clear and specific. Now, that does not mean you should not plan longer, though. Just understand that that is tentative planning, because you just can't have the kind of implementation level clarity past 18 months or so. So the results should be big but achievable, meaningful, visible, and if possible, measurable. And thinking of your results with these terms will guide your planning process. Managing yourself requires taking responsibility for relationships. Know your strengths, performance modes, and the values of your coworkers. So to be clear, that is know the strengths, performance modes, and values of your coworkers, not just yourself. This sounds obvious, but is often missed, and it's very important. You have to know, hey, what do my coworkers value? Are they extroverted? Are they introverted? What are their strengths? Where would they be best? What are they best at doing? All that. And all the questions previously mentioned to ask yourself can be used on these other people. I mean, you can actually ask them, and it's worth asking them. Hey, what do you think you're the best at doing? What are your strengths? Like actually learning that stuff is important. And it's very worth understanding your boss's learning style, if they are a listener, if they're a reader, all the stuff that's been mentioned in this review. It's one of the secrets of managing a boss and getting things done with coworkers. You also have to take responsibility for communication in all your relationships. If people do not understand what you are doing or saying, it is your fault, not theirs. You might be a genius, and the other people truly may not understand your high-level ideas. That could actually be possible. It might not be your ego. But guess what? It's your responsibility to simplify and to present your ideas persuasively. Ask others about their strengths, how they work best, and what they want to accomplish. Also, don't just listen to what they say. Watch what they do. Use your own observation, because of course, people say many things, but ultimately, it is what people do that really will show you what they're about. So it is your duty to build communication and trust. It's the oxygen of an effective organization. And so the last part of the review is the second half of your life. And these are just some ideas. You might want to start a second career, a parallel career, or focus on social contribution, however you see fit. You must begin preparing for the second half of your life long before you get there. And that's the big point to take away there. Okay, well, I think that this was another helpful little audio thing. And, I hope you enjoyed it.